Are we having a new food shortage situation, or is this just the same food shortage situation that's always been? Shalom. This is Fallen Yeshua. Welcome to the Rock. I am a hot mess. I've been working on this garden right here. The children pulled up most of the grass out of this one, except for next to these logs I have to cut up for firewood. But they've removed or majority of the grass in this area. And this is a smaller garden that I'm growing here, or that I'm going to be planting in. I'm coming through and I'm removing the rocks, and I take the rocks and I put the rocks in a bucket and I transfer the rocks to pathways that I'm building on the property. Works perfectly. Hush, putty. Children are over here with the goats right now, doing some lawn mowing. They're excellent lawnmowers. Y'all gonna tie them up over here? You just walking around? Okay. Anyways, we are in the process. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, with the garden that I have, I do tend to. I will make and plant in smaller gardens at times because pest control. Sometimes if you're growing certain things and they tend to have a lot of pests, it's easier for me to slash and burn than to compromise a whole garden. So let's say I plant squash here, and I get the squash bugs and they're destroying my squash garden. Well, I've had it before where, I think it was last year, where the squash bugs actually transferred into my watermelons. And they actually transferred from the watermelons to the pumpkins. And all because they were all planted near each other and the bugs were able to just transfer right over. So I do it for that reason. And I do have a very large garden coming in, about 150 foot by 50 foot. That's because I plan on growing a lot more of this next year. This is my first year growing corn, and I'm going to be growing a lot more of it next year. Now that I know, it's my first year growing corn here. But now that I know it grows well, I'm going to be growing a lot more of it. Anyways, a lot of people are recognizing again the food shortage situation. People are saying, oh no, we're going to go through it again. And I look at it and say, we're going through it still. It's not again, this is still. The Bible says in Proverbs 22:3 and 27:12, the prudent man foresees the evil and hides himself. The foolish one passes on and is punished. There's no way that if your eyes were open, this next situation of food should be surprising. The Walmarts are now putting up the signs again. People are sending me photos. Yeah, they're talking about the lack of food, and there's going to be less food in the shelves, and sorry for the inconvenience. Well, what did you expect to happen when the zombie plague has removed and pulled people out of the fields? So they're not, did you really believe that all that milk that you saw being destroyed and poultry you saw being destroyed and eggs you saw being destroyed, even though I don't eat pig because I keep the law of Yah, there was pigs being destroyed, cows being destroyed, people plowing their food under. Did you really believe that we weren't going to have a food crisis? That food that was being plowed under was food that was going to be used now and through the rest of the year. So you can expect to see things get worse and worse. And on the opposite end, you have China that had a severe flooding, and it flooded a large swaths of farmland, destroyed. They are not going to get a harvest. So now China's going into the open market, and they're buying up a lot of food, and they're buying it at a premium price. So they're going into the markets now, and they're buying from a lot of the sellers that would have sold to this country. So a lot of the grains, rices, legumes, sorghum, a lot of those grains are going to go to China to feed all of those people. I think they said, the last thing I heard was over 200 million had been displaced. That's a lot of food. And then the food that they were growing to feed their people, it's not there. So now you're going to see food shortage spawned on by multiple occurrences. The fact that in this country they didn't produce a whole lot this year, and in China they're not have to hit the open market trying to buy food for their people. And then the locusts came in after that in China to eat whatever was left. There's going to be a food crisis. And I hope that you as men have planned for this thing so that you don't get caught unawares. Don't sit back and expect that you're just going to be able to wander into your grocery store. If there are resources there now, I would suggest that if you have the money, Pick it up now. Don't wait until, if you haven't started a garden, you can dig up some area and start your fall garden right now. Get some things in the earth right now. What are you waiting for? Do you really believe that you're just going to be able to always run to the store? I'll always run to Kroger's or Stater Brothers or Walmart or Fred Meyer's or Albertsons or, whatever store you get your groceries from. Do you honestly believe that you're always going to be able to go and get it there? You want to know a very self-sustaining way of getting meat? Have chickens. Learn to incubate and hatch them. And you will always have chicken. Same thing with goats. Learn to take care of them. You can have milk. You can have meat. And if anything, learn to grow. Learn to grow. See, right there we have the corn, but then right behind that, those are all tomatoes going all the way up that hill. That's all tomatoes going that way, right there. Those are green beans that I've trellised. Learn to grow. Learn to grow food. Learn to grow calories. Whether it be potatoes or Jerusalem artichokes, which I am growing. I'm growing both potatoes and I'm growing Jerusalem artichokes. And next year, the expanded area, the 150 foot by 50 foot, is all going to be potatoes. Well, potatoes and corn. Potatoes and corn next year. Learn to grow food. We have to get out of this dependency. There are too many, especially men. He's fine if he wants to come in here and get some of this. In fact, if you want him to mow some of this, that'd be fine. There are too many men who are dependent on somebody else for almost everything. Men are dependent on the system for food. They're dependent on their leaders for spiritual growth. They're depending on everybody. It's like they don't know how to pick up a Bible themselves and read it and study it and live it. They don't know how to get on their hands and knees and grow food. They don't know how to do anything. So everything becomes, yes, let them eat that. Look at this. They're herding. This is I just purchased this one within the last month or two. It's a La Mancha buck, and he's in the age of breeding. So we're going to breed him with our Nubian Kiko doe, which is right over here, so we can get some more, because La Manchas are good milk producers. Kikos are large meat goats, but Nubians are also very good milk producers also. So we're hoping that we'll continue to work on our milk production here. Also meat. We have all of our goats back here right now. Running. Well, not all of them. Who are we missing?
General P, Hannah, and...
Oh, General P, Hannah, and Mimi. Okay. So make sure you keep them away from my figs. They don't good. But anyways, food production. How are you going to get calories? How do you plan on feeding your food? Men, how do you plan on feeding your family, your children? Your plan cannot be, you cannot have been prudent and seen this and said, okay, I'm just going to continue to operate the same way. If anything, did you store food? Here comes our big Nubian Kiko. For some reason, the children at times would rather leash them and walk them around like they're little dogs. Or they'll tie them in an area, and because the area where I cleared out, I planted it out, and obviously it takes time for the pasture to grow, and so we're still moving them around our property and herding them. Well, let's say hi. How you doing? Hi. How you doing, Captain L? Is that good? And in that food production, one of the things I'm doing a video on soon is producing for your animals. You have to produce food for your animals because there is still winters, and you have to have food production. You have to have the ability to store food. I've talked with some of my beloved brethren about that. We've been discussing, some of the ideas, and they've been giving me some of their ideas. We've bounced ideas back and forth of how to produce food for your animals over the winter. We have some ideas. But anyways, food production. You're going to have to produce food. You're going to have to be able to feed your family. These times that we see here now with the lack of, or with, once again, we're going towards a food shortage, you have to have a plan. You need to be able to produce food. You're not going to make it through these times being a top of the line consumer. You're going to have to be a top of the line producer. If you were in this faith, you're going to have to hone in to what our ancestors knew and what our ancestors did, which was produce. Produce calories, produce carbohydrates, produce food. And if you haven't, please, if you have it in you, go out there and plant something. But stop relying on everybody else. Stop thinking that the system's just going to keep rolling the way it's always rolled. You can see in the news that it's not going that way. There is a food shortage coming. In fact, the food shortage is here. It's just taking longer for that snowball and to get downhill. But believe me, that snowball is gaining speed, it's gaining power, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm going to say what I've always said, you can't stop the snowball. So brothers and sisters, the only thing you can do is get out of the way of the snowball. Get out of the way of the coming snowball. Food shortage, economic crisis, jobs, people not being able to pay their bills, people not being able to eat. Y'all willing, if you are watching this channel, you won't be one of the people that's caught in that snowball. Put it, you felt. My children are comical. Bless you all. I hope you have a blessed day. I'm going to get back to work and watch these children herd these wonderful goats. Shalom.
Hello.
I think Brownie's pregnant.